Welcome to the Investing Bros. I am T. Shroom, and we're going to be getting into whether or not crypto is doomed as a result of this. SEC warns UniSWAP Labs of potential enforcement action. Now, there's a comforting word in that title of this article here. Did you pick up on it? This headline says potential enforcement action. That's correct. You may be thinking that the SEC has already sued UniSWAP. That would be incorrect. They are potentially going to sue UniSWAP, but there are still implications from this that could have broader-based action on crypto. So, in case you've been living under a rock, there is context for this. Let's get into it. Looking at the UniSWAP Labs blog, there is context for this because the SEC, this is not the first time the SEC has gone ahead and brought a crypto organization under scrutiny. Looking at the blog.uniswap.org website, you can see this is what we have to go on because the order of events here is the UniSWAP, the organization, UniSWAP Labs, they received a Wells notice from the SEC. I don't think that Wells notice has been published, and I don't know that it really needs to be. Right? It's just a warning from the SEC, generally saying you are under scrutiny, and you're hereby warned. So let's read from yesterday's April 10th entry to the blog website over at blog.uniswap.org, Fighting for DeFi. Today, UniSWAP Labs received a Wells notice from the Enforcement Division of the United States Security and Exchange Commission notifying us that they are planning to recommend a legal action against us. In the meantime, our entire suite of current products will continue to be available, and we will continue to ship new products, taking into account the SEC's ongoing lawsuits against Coinbase and others, as well as their complete unwillingness to provide clarity or a path to registration to those operating lawfully within the U.S. We can only conclude that this is the latest political effort. This is the latest political effort to target even the best actors building technology on blockchains. And I generally agree with that. I mean, this seems to be, it seems to be on its face just like another action from the SEC. But why? What is the motivation here? What do they think that they're going to accomplish that they haven't been able to accomplish in the SEC versus Ripple Labs case, in the SEC versus Kraken case, versus Coinbase, versus you name it? It doesn't seem like there's any real path of progress here for the SEC, and yet they keep spending taxpayer dollars, if that even matters anymore, keep spending American resources on trying to attack this industry, right? Let's read further here. I've got a tweet here from the chief legal officer of UniSWAP Labs. This is usually who we turn to these types of accounts in these moments, and we've got a smoking hot tweet from him. Today's Wells notice against UniSWAP is disappointing, but is not unexpected from this SEC. It's another abuse of power, unsurprising from an SEC that last month a federal judge ruled committed a gross abuse of power by lying in court about crypto projects. In Ripple, a judge ruled that didn't act out of faithful allegiance to the law. In Grayscale, 3 judges ruled broke the law in denying a Bitcoin ETF, having no reasonable and coherent explanation. In our case for UniSWAP, the SEC's argument are particularly weak. The SEC has authority only over securities, not any asset represented by a particular file format or technical standard. Most tokens are clearly not securities, BTC, ETH, stablecoins, meme coins, nor generally are secondary market transactions per the Ripple opinion. The UniSWAP protocol, web app, and wallets don't meet the legal definitions of securities, exchange, or broker. Of course, this coming from someone who has a lot to lose by being wrong here. But I generally, obviously, agree with Marvin Amori. But it doesn't stop there. We've got one more. Don't worry, I'm not going to read this whole thing. From Hayeth ETH. Now, this is in the inventor of UniSWAP protocol. So saying, really trying to go to bat here for his invention. Today, UniSWAP Labs received a Wells notice from the SEC. I'm not surprised. So nobody's surprised here. And that might be our first ping towards answering our question today, is crypto doomed? He's not surprised, just annoyed, disappointed, and ready to fight. He's confident that the products that he offers are legal and that their work is on the right side of history. You can kind of see where this one's going as well. So it really gives these founders and these legal minds a moment to kind of talk about who they are, why they're doing this, what they believe in, and why they're not surprised, they're annoyed, and they're disappointed. And it sucks, right? But ultimately, they have the resources to fight this in court. They shouldn't have to. But this is just, I guess, the growing pains of an emerging industry. Maybe the SEC feels like if it didn't try to sue everybody in in crypto, that they wouldn't be doing their job. That seems to be the Gary Gensler approach. But in any case, we're going to drop back and punt. We're going to ask the question, is this where crypto ends? Right? Is crypto doomed from this? Now, a lot of you watching are probably thinking, okay, T-Shroom, crypto is not doomed. We've seen this again and again. But there are a lot of folks who are newer to the space, and they may not even really know what the SEC is. They're just getting into crypto. They're just getting into investing, and they're thinking, the SEC, that's a federal agency. That's scary. They're suing a cryptocurrency, or they're threatening to do so. First of all, that's important to remember. Right? It's a potential enforcement action. This is from Reuters.com covering the story. So it's not even really a lawsuit yet. But if you are new and you're seeing and you're hearing about UniSWAP, and maybe even you have a little bit of UniSWAP, and it is seeing some movement to the downside, I will say, down 14.3%, and it's been down lower than that since this potential enforcement action was issued. I think that you have very little to worry about here. If you can kind of sense the calm in the chief legal counsel here for UniSWAP. It's just another abuse of power. Unsurprising from the SEC's. Unsurprised, right? And then the inventor of it said he's not surprised. So, the leaders over at UniSWAP, they're not surprised. People who are surprised are the ones who are likely to be taken down and demolished, right? Folks who are not surprised are ready. They're ready for the fight. They've been anticipating this. And of course, you hire a legal team to try to predict what some negative legal outcomes could be at any given time, and they're usually ready for those. I think in this case, UniSWAP, I have no reason to doubt that they would be anything but ready. And if they weren't, there's plenty of brilliant legal minds in the crypto industry, all over at Ripple Labs, Coinbase, who I'm sure would be willing to lend a hand to the extent that it wouldn't be a conflict of interest. So to me, as someone who's been in the crypto space for a minute, this is not worrying to me in the slightest. To me, what this does do is it says that the SEC is not giving up yet. Whatever their interest is continuing, and it has not stopped. Whatever is motivating the SEC to act as an enforcement arm of TradFi, it seems, is that's not come to an end. I can only guess that the buck stops at a bank like Vanguard or perhaps the Biden administration, but it's unclear. It could potentially just generally be Gary Gensler's misunderstanding of technology and a stubbornness and an unwillingness to change his mind on an entire industry. It's very unlikely to be that, but it could be. That could be where the buck is stopping here. So it's sad. It's not surprising, right? It's annoying, and I'm just disappointed yet again. But some of you out there, you have some UniSWAP, and you're like, T-Shroom, this is scary. What do I do? So let's go ahead and take a look at the UniSWAP charts. And what I will say is that it is somewhat scary, but we're going to get through this together. We're going to take a look here. So the first thing that I'm noticing here on the daily chart is that we have failed to really get a firm breakthrough of the midline of the Bollinger Band, and then on a second attempt, we have also failed without even getting up over that midline of the Bollinger Band. So there was already some technical weakness starting to grow here on UniSWAP. We actually had a higher low, but then we have a lower low, obviously. So this movement here to the downside is a direct result, I would imagine, of this headline here, UniSWAP, enforcement action, blah, blah, blah. So let's throw up some indicators here. Let's throw up Lux Algo price concepts. And what you can see is that the equilibrium price is where UniSWAP was kind of testing lower and testing higher on the daily chart in this moment of ranging. It hasn't really provided too much in the way of support and resistance. It was decent support back here, but that ultimately broke through. with with this big candlestick down to the downside. And so now it's, I wouldn't say it's likely, but, the next levels of support, I would say come in right around here at $7.07. As you can see, there was this huge green candlestick. Do you all remember what this was about? I do. This was UniSWAP changing its governance in a favorable way to those who were already holding a lot of UniSWAP. Now, what you'll also notice here, as a Bollinger Band maxi, I've got to stop with the Bollinger Bands, but you can see that it found support here back on February 23rd of this year, and that's where it skyrocketed. So it was really nice, obviously, for those holding Uniswap, but those gains have almost been given all the way back. Currently, from that top wick of 2024 to the live price, we're down 45%. Okay, and by we, I don't mean me. I do not hold Uniswap. Funny, I have something funny about that actually, but so 45% to the downside. If we just go to the candlestick, where you were much more likely to get an entry at the top, 39%. So Tim and I, we talk about 20%, 30%, even 40% pullbacks. That's what you've gotten here in Uniswap. It's taken about a month and change, but you have gotten a pullback here. Now, you got it after a giant candlestick of 56%, 55% to the upside that would eventually resolve in a 131% move from the retest of this Bollinger Band all the way to the top. So hopefully you took some profits up in this region. Maybe you didn't. Let's turn on the reversal bands and see. This is the signals and overlays from ALGO. And as you can see, another line. So this reversal band coincides with that call it $8. It's just below that. It's really not $8, but it's like 7.92. But this reversal band coincides with these two highs back here. This candlestick close here at 7.7 in February 18th, and then back here December 28th, that was 7.8, $7.08. So my prediction is that we will find some support here at 7.9 or $8 for Uniswap, but it likely has further to fall. And then you are also getting the TP1 and TP2 here from ALGO, which should potentially be signaling not reversals, but support. That this is probably going to be where you would want to take profits if you're in a short to the downside. So let's go ahead and jump on over to the weekly chart for Uniswap and get a little bit of a zoomed out perspective here for the coin that has been brought into the principal's office for some scolding. And ultimately here, guys, I'm going to get to the conclusion that some of you have probably already sniffed out. So let's go ahead and look. So the all-time high for Uniswap from this very high wick back in May of 2021 was all the way up at $44, right? So if we take the live price now up to that all-time high, that is a 381% move higher. Now, whether or not it's going to get that high again, I cannot guarantee at all. But I think that Uniswap is one of the coins that probably has as good a chance as any to see those all-time highs. It's a pretty good coin, pretty good project, right? It's the DEX for Ethereum, we should point out. Now, from these lows, let's see, we've been on a journey here to return a 1,127% gain from those lows. So we shall see. We shall see what ends up happening here. What some of you may be sniffing out is that this could be a buy, right? This Uniswap, I think, has a lot of staying power. There's even, some tinfoil hat theories that probably wouldn't be too far off the mark that it's possible that the SEC is making this happen, sending a Wells notice for something other than trying to pursue justice, which is that they want to bring the boat back for the rich. Right? Somebody wanted to get into Uniswap, and they didn't. Of course, I think that's very unlikely. I don't think that as terrible of a regulator as Gary Gensler is, I don't think he's that corrupt. I don't know. What do you think? Tell me in the chat. Do you think that Gary Gensler would go that far as to bring down the price of a single asset so that his buddies from Pi Alpha Kappa or wherever are able to get an entry into Uniswap at a lower price? Chances are, actually, I would love to run a statistical analysis of all the crypto organizations, whether they be projects, for-profit, nonprofit, or associations or whatever, that have received a legal action from the SEC. How many of them are higher today than when they received that action? I would wonder about that, and to my mind, I would say that they're probably all higher, including Coinbase. Right? So we'll see. Got a lot of folks in chat here. Army Piper throwing up the salute. You gotta love it. Army Piper will be going live here in just a few minutes at 9:30 over at the Piper Academy. Don't miss it. Alex Eby said, "Happy Sunday rising, everyone." Happy sun rising. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, wait, it's not Sunday. I'm late. No, it's not Sunday. Paul Hart said, "This channel deserves far more subscribers." Facts. Well, one thing that you can do is subscribe to this channel, and you can smash the like button so that the algo knows that you got some alpha. Make sure that you do this, and you will help the bros. Thank you so much, Paul Hart, for reminding everybody to do the right thing. Let's see. DPG, someone failed percentage in elementary school. Did I do something wrong with the percentages there? Maybe. I'm not sure. Or maybe you're talking about somebody else in the chat. I don't know. Sometimes, I don't know. The percentage I did was all calculated by TradingView, so I don't know how much I could have gotten wrong there, but we'll see. Cruxa Crypto said, "You didn't pay attention, do you? You don't pay attention, do you? I can name 20 top 50 cryptos that have outperformed Bitcoin this cycle." So somebody probably got a Bitcoin maxi in the chat, which is welcome. We love Bitcoin maxis. We love anybody who is into crypto and willing to smash the like button. So, but I can definitely attest to what Cruxa Crypto is saying here. There's plenty of cryptos that have outperformed Bitcoin this cycle so far. Solana comes to mind. All right, let's go, and Chainlink, I believe. So let's go ahead and look at Bitcoin, speaking of which. But before we do, let's go take a look at the crypto bubbles. The crypto bubbles are brought to you by iTrust Capital and CryptoBubbles.net, where you can find these bubbles. Uniswap down 14.5%. CKB down 16%. Those are some of note. Ordi, your boy's favorite, one of my favorite meme coins here, up 9.8%. And generally what you'll notice from the bubbles is that they're green, right? We're generally green here. We have this project, Nervos Network, which is just overbought. I don't think that it really is there's any reason for a pullback. If you're looking to get exposure to Nervos, actually today might not be the worst day to do that, unless it's down on some news. But ultimately here, we're green. We're green on the day. It looks like on average, Dogecoin even putting up 6.2%. So, things are looking up, even as Uniswap is being torn down. Uniswap not being able to participate in this move higher. Well, speaking of the move higher, let's look at the 4 hour here for Bitcoin. Taking a look, you can see that Bitcoin, actually, let's go to the daily. I have something important to show you all here. So I tweeted out that the Bollinger Band needs to earn its weight here, the midline of the Bollinger Band. Well, look what was the support here for this low for the candlestick. It was the Bollinger Band coming in right at 68.3. Yes, we wicked lower than that, but we only wicked. We only wicked lower than that on this bullish candlestick here. And now, essentially, we are back up above this downtrending line of what was resistance is now back into support. And as Tim was pointing out yesterday, I don't know how much we can. I mean, it's so obvious that this is at least a triangle, if not a pennant, but it's so obvious that it's here, but it really hasn't been obeyed very well. I pointed out yesterday something that I thought was pretty useful, which is if you copy and paste another line here, you have a ton of margin here that is only wicks, right? 3 wicks here, 1 wick down here, whereas you cannot do that here. What you can do, you could draw a margin that is candlesticks, right? But candlesticks are closes, and they're much more definitive. They're much more, you can take much more action based on them, right? So what does that mean? It means there's more movement to the upside, right? You had a close, you had a candle body close just above this, even as far back as April 1st, and then you had your first one back here on April 8th, right? And then we've had several, now 3 in a row, that have closed on or above this line as a whole candle body. Now we're getting one that's testing this other line that I've just drawn arbitrarily, though. So don't pay attention to that as a level. So now Bitcoin currently testing $70,637 per coin. It is absolutely astounding. Now, what happens from here? What we really do need to see, now let's go back to the 4 hour. What we really do need to see is a good retest, and it looks like we're having this in real time. I'm too zoomed out. T-Shroom. We're getting a nice retest in real time of this downtrending line of what we want to be support. There was a failed retest here, right? Because Bitcoin broke down through it. What we would have liked to have seen was a bounce higher from there and then off to the races. We did not get that, but we have a second chance because we live in a world of second chances where Bitcoin now has the chance to come up and retest this very disobeyed line of support and resistance, and now we're potentially could move higher and get up to this 74 level and push an all-time high for Bitcoin. Whether or not we do it is yet to be seen, but we will be tracking this. And today at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Investing Bros, me and my bro Tim, we will be diving deep into the charts to explore exactly that. Well, we've got some more news here, and before we get into it, I want to bring to your attention this name that I've mentioned before. This is iTrust Capital, guys. Now, we talk about the benefits, we talk about the ease of use of the desktop and mobile apps for iTrust Capital, but one thing we don't talk about is the incentive. There's $100 that you will get for free when you go sign up for iTrust Capital. Now, don't go type it in on Google, because we've got links to iTrust Capital, and you actually support the channel when you click those links and set up your account. So go ahead and do that today. Where are those links, T-Shroom? I don't know anything about YouTube. I barely know how to turn on my computer. Where can I get those links? Well, the links for iTrust Capital are just below the video that you're watching right now, and they are right here. So here's the video that you're watching. Look at that good-looking guy. And then you just come down, you hit more on the descriptions, and Bob's your uncle. There's your link. That's where you can go sign up for iTrust Capital and be on your way to a tax-advantaged IRA that you can store and invest and trade in crypto. All of your favorite cryptos, and if you're feeling froggy, a little bit of gold and silver if you're so inclined. The Kabesi letter pointing out some other very important inflation news. March PPI inflation. You didn't think I was going to cover the PPI, did you? You had little faith in T-Shroom. Well, I'm here and I'm covering it. Breaking. March PPI inflation rises to 2.1%, below expectations of 2.2%. Core PPI inflation rises to 2.4%, above expectations of 2.3%. Bearish. PPI and CPI inflation are now both up for 2 straight months. For the first time since September 2023, the Fed pivot is quickly disappearing, says the Kabesi letter. So, I mean, we had Caleb on yesterday. We broke down the CPI print that came in hot yesterday. It was a miss. This is another miss. Not good, right? Not good. Now, what we will say is that this one's a little bit more bullish, because you did actually get one that beat. The 2.1 came in below expectations, but then this one came up above. So it's a little for the bulls, a little for the bears. But after yesterday's print, you really needed to see both of these meet in order for it to have any kind of impact. Ultimately, the Fed's going to be, if they are taking into consideration the latest prints, which I can only assume they will, this just indicates higher for longer. Higher rates for longer, which equals more restrictive liquidity conditions in the macro, and that ultimately trickles down into less purchasing of risk assets. But in this world we live in, it is very strange, right? Because if you're in the Magnificent Seven, right, that were called the FANG stocks, those just seem to keep going up, up, up. Google, Apple, Amazon, those stocks, those keep going up, up, up. Bitcoin seems to just keep going up, up, up. Kind of doesn't care about the Fed, about inflation too much anymore. May be starting to take on that role of a non-risk asset, of a risk-off asset, right? Like gold, like real estate, like bonds. So, speaking of which, let's go ahead and check out a little bit about these ETFs. We've got an update here from Fox Business News. Let's take a look. Let's take a listen.
To investor interest, that investors have been saying for years that we want an ETF that is providing exposure to Bitcoin. They liked the asset, but they wanted a better vehicle to get exposure to it. And just like it's incredibly easy to get exposure to 500 stocks in the S&P 500 through IVV, or to get bond exposure through AG, people want that type of easy vehicle for Bitcoin. So this is a huge step forward for investors getting that easy access. But also a lot of investors for the first time can now consider Bitcoin. It just wasn't available to a lot of investors who could only buy things that are traded on exchanges like ETFs. And so now you see a whole group of investors who are thinking about this asset for the first time.
You're also seeing 70 different mutual funds saying, you know what? I would like to switch to an ETF, because an ETF is like a mutual fund, only it trades like a stock. You can move it as many times as you want during the day. So give me...
Goes back to investors.
This is incredible, obviously, for what is being pointed out here by Jay Jacobs, BlackRock's U.S. head of thematic and active ETFs. That's a title that would be interesting to have. Of course, this is bullish, right? He's basically saying that adoption is imminent for a large group of people who have a lot of money, right? But she also makes a point that's really interesting. I don't know who that is, but she's a correspondent there for Fox Business, probably a really smart lady. But she makes an interesting point using a term that I haven't heard in a long time, of a mutual fund. So, guys, in case you didn't know, ETFs, which we talk about a lot, ETFs are the next evolution of mutual funds. But it is so interesting that she even brings that up, because that means that she knows that some percentage of her audience is still invested in mutual funds. And that, to me, tells me, just how it's bullish for Bitcoin, right? Because there's so many people that haven't even migrated into ETFs, which are from a cost standpoint, from a fee standpoint, are a superior investment instrument to mutual funds. And this has been known for, I want to say, multiple decades. I'm not sure. Are there still mutual funds that perform well? Of course, right? But their cheaper counterpart, the ETF, like she said, can be traded on the stock market day to day. That kind of liquidity, I don't believe, exists in the mutual fund industry. This just kind of goes to show how comfortable the American investor has become, and it gives a little bit of insight of why we've seen such sluggish adoption of something that is the new gold. It is a far superior instrument of storage of value than even gold, and certainly of mutual funds, especially if you look at the annual return since its inception. Goodness gracious, no comparison. Well, Willie Woo's chiming in here on this video that we just watched. He said, I can be more specific. I love that. He means two groups, a very large group of rich people, boomers and Gen X, who have had many decades of wealth gathering, yes, a smaller group of asset managers who allocate rich people's money. This group manages 100 trillion of BlackRock's 10 trillion, of which BlackRock is 10 trillion. Yes, it's huge, and the allocations have hardly started, says Bitcoin Archive. Now, there's all kinds of other comments here that would be interesting and juicy to read, but you're not scrolling through X. You're watching the Investing Bros. Make sure that you smash the like button. We love to have fun here, and we love to get into the alpha. So far, to me, I think the biggest takeaway is if you have a little bit of extra dry powder, UniSWAP may not be the worst project to examine. We've seen time after time is that if the actual Wells notice is acted on, these crypto companies end up winning in court, and that is generally a bullish event right now. Am I saying go out and buy UniSWAP? No, I did not say that. I said might be something to look into more, might be something to consider putting into your portfolio. If people are telling you to buy an asset, run for the hills, especially if it's not Bitcoin. Now, if someone's telling you to buy Bitcoin, that's a little different. I probably have gone on record telling people to buy Bitcoin, right? But that's a little different, right? If someone's telling you to buy anything but Bitcoin, and they're not just saying that it is good to look into, it's something that I'm invested in. If they're, you don't want to be listening to too many people who are telling you what to do in general, except your parents, unless you're not living with them anymore. All right, let's move on here. Let's move on. Bitfinex Securities introduces El Salvador's first tokenized debt to fund a new Hilton hotel. Now, this one's actually really, really interesting. Not going to get into the details of that. Maybe we will at 3. Robert Kiyosaki dropping some bullishness, but for the sake of time, we are just going to make a note of that. And then this is an interesting tool. This is heyapollo.com/Bitcoin ETF. Now, this is where you can actually go in and track not just how many how many Bitcoins are held by each of these issuers, including Grayscale, BlackRock, Bitwise, all the big ones. But you can also look at their Bitcoin per 1K shares. So how much Bitcoin they hold versus what 1,000 of their shares are worth. This is really, really interesting because it can kind of give you an idea. Like this one, Van Eyck is actually overly backed. They have more Bitcoin than they probably need to have. So very interesting. But this is just another source of data. They've got other breakdowns here. ETF Bitcoin holdings over time, obviously going up and to the right, except Grayscale going down and to the right, right? Those are the sell-offs from Grayscale. Which, why? Why, T-Shroom? I'm new to crypto. I don't know what you're talking about. It's because of this number right here. It's Grayscale's fee. You'll notice is the only one with a number, a non-zero number, on the left side of the decimal. Would you be in this when you have to pay that much higher of a fee? No, and that's why everybody's selling it. They're not selling Bitcoin. They're selling GBTC so that they can rotate into the other ETFs or rotate into a new lawnmower or whatever they want to spend their funds on. But yeah, this is an interesting new little gadget here if you guys want to check out heyapollo.com. And then the last story here, just a headline, Bitcoin leads with a slight sales uptick in NFT market. Bitcoin sees marginal increase in sales, outperforming Ethereum and Solana in the NFT space over the past day. I don't expect that to maintain in the short term. I think it's an anomaly for now, right? But this could be the norm very soon in the future. BROZ, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. T-Shroom and I. Well, T-Shroom and I, definitely, and Tim, will be going live on the Investing Bros, the channel that you're watching right now. So make sure that you smash the like button and subscribe so that you don't miss any updates in crypto that may affect your portfolio. Thank you so much for joining, and if you're trading today, keep those stop losses tight, and if you're human, stay hydrated.
Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots stack bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros. Army pipe, lethal on trade. Entries and exits, worthy of praise. Tim, the professor of the TA. Shout it out loud on the PA. T-Shroom's news, got your word. Doing better than what he deserves. Beamer, leave no evidence. Soon fly coop with his dividend. Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots stack bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros.